Apologies for being a couple of minutes late. That was entirely my fault. But we're here. That's the main thing.
It's good to be back.
We've got tea.
Yep.
And what else have we got? We got manuals. In fact,
it's going to be a technical discussion.
I've got many manuals. Anyway, more about that later. So, and we've also got, there's questions there already, or there's people talking already, which is good.
Yeah, questions are already coming in.
Excellent. All right. So we will, well, I think the best thing to do is let's just start off with what's been going on in the last month. Do you want to go first, Darren?
Well, I'm still doing my engine rebuilds. They're going really slowly because of machinists, but you know how that goes.
Yeah, the world only goes as fast as the machinists that are available, unfortunately, when it comes to engine work.
Yeah. Yeah, and I put out, a couple videos this weekend, mostly because I wanted to prepare for our discussion today, because we have a lot of things to talk about fueling-wise.
Yep.
Had a tune earlier this week that went fairly smoothly. I'll get that video out at some point. A couple of remote tunes happening, one of which is happening this Friday with the guy in Norway. So he might actually join the chat. We'll see. So yeah, just kind of cruising through my workload.
Excellent.
Plenty to do. It's driving season, so everyone wants to get out and drive.
Yeah, I know. So I've been busy, as you probably well know, with various tunings. So Darren already knows, because he's usually ahead of videos than anybody else, because Darren gets to review mine to see if they're any good before they go out. So next Friday one coming out is a long one, so it's a half-hour bumper episode of all tuning at one event, which is really good. So and it did include a Triumph TR7. So yeah, unfortunately it didn't need much, but I still worked on one. Anyway,
well, it's still nice to see an SU carb Triumph. Normally we have a bunch of Stromberg ones over here.
Yeah. So this had twin HS6s on it, which was nice. So yeah, the other thing that's been getting right up my nose this month is fuel pressure. And too much of it from mechanical pumps typically.
Yes.
So a lot of people have been having problems with, I put the video out a little while ago now about fuel pressure and overflow problems and stuff like that. And that's caused some people to have a think, and it's also caused people to ask me questions of which I didn't have the answers for. So I had to go down to Capingham to Berlin Fuel Systems and go, can I have a look at a drawing or two? And as it turns out, they didn't have the answers either. So, well, certainly not in every case. And they also had some answers that didn't add up, which kind of made sense from the point of view of what I was seeing, in as much as we got leaking carbs. So I'll give you the example I had. Someone bought one of my carburetors from Mini Spares, and it was one of my nice HIF 44s. And they fitted it to a car with a genuine SU mechanical pump. And sure enough, it leaked straight out the overflow. So, that person was clearly not particularly happy with their new product. So they contacted Mini Spares, and they also contacted me to let me know it was leaking, sent me a little video. Anyway, a replacement carb was dispatched, put that on, and that leaked as well, exactly the same. And at this point, I thought, yeah, I know the problem here. It's not the carburetor. So as it turns out, I then thought, right, we've got too much fuel pressure. So I went down and had a look at the drawing for the fuel pump and said, what's the fuel rating or the fuel pressure rating? And funnily enough, they told me it was 3.25 pounds per square inch, and peak pressure, that is 2 full pumps, was 6 psi.
Wow.
And that didn't make any sense, because they'd also told me that on a HIF type needle valve, the peak pressure was 4 psi. So how have we got a pump that can produce peak of 6 on a needle valve that only holds 4?
That's 2 pounds less.
So clearly problem. So anyway, we solved the problem, because I just said fit a regulator, and I told him to set it at 2 pounds per square inch, because he had a normal car. It's got a big bore needle valve, so that's bigger than the standard one, so it flows plenty of fuel. I said just put it in at 2 psi. Problem solved. Sure enough, sent me a little video back. Sweet as a nut, no problem. But he was just obviously, but why have I fitted all standard parts and it's not working? My answer was, don't go there because we don't know the answer yet. All right. So we're still working that one out. But the point is, you don't know this, Darren, but I did have a look at this manual, right? So this is the manual for an Austin Metro. And I thought, I wonder if I have a look in the fuel system. You know, what might that tell me about fuel pressure, right? Would it tell me anything about fuel pressure? Or would it tell me about, you know, leaking problems, etc., etc.? Anyway, funny enough, I found a section and it actually says, gives a nice picture on pressurizing the carburetor and also a little section under there under fuel delivery.
Mm-hmm.
A minimum reading of 6 pounds per square inch should be attained with 2 full strokes of the lever. So they had a pump which matches the figures I'm getting from Berlin with 6 pounds per square inch, but that's the maximum possible. And they say an average delivery of 3.25. Well, if you've got something that's giving a maximum possible, then there is a potential at certain parts it's over. You know, it's over the rated flow. So yeah, that's why we're getting leaks, or at least that's what I believe we're getting leaks. Anyway, they're looking into it, and they're also looking into the fact that I asked them, okay, so what's the pump that you've got fitted on the 998s, the minis with the HS carb? And then when we looked at the drawing, it was the same. So it's like, this doesn't make any sense either. So anyway, I'm not saying that they're getting stuff wrong. Clearly, they haven't got the information, or they hadn't got it to hand when we was looking at it. So let's just say at this point, it's a work in progress. But I will say, looking at the old books, and I've looked at the old manuals this evening, they list 2 pumps. One is the 800 type, which is the type for the HIF, and the other type, the 700 type, is listed in the older manuals for the HS, which is has a 3 pounds maximum peak pressure and probably delivery about 1.7, something like that, right? Which is much better for the HS carb. However, when I was at Berlin, we couldn't find that drawing, or we couldn't find the spec. So this is an ongoing thing that I will work out with Berlin as we go forward. All right. But all I'm in that situation now is, if you've got a mechanical pump or an electric pump and you're having problems with it coming out the overflow, just fit a regulator and set it to these pressures that I'm going to give now. So if you've got a HIF carb, just set it 2 to 2.5 PSI. That'll be plenty for a normal car. Now, if you've got like a hot road car, then make sure you got the bigger needle valve in, like I sell in my my own rebuilt carbs. It is available as a separate part, so you can fit that in. And again, you know, set it to 2.5 PSI maximum, and then you'll have no problem with the fuel delivery, and you'll have no problem with the leaking. Now, if you've got an HS carb or a pair of HS carbs, this is where it gets interesting. Because looking at the manuals, it tells you, like the old cars, and I'll check this out this evening as well, Darren, that the old cars have between 2 and 3 pounds per square inch on the electric pump, but that's at the back of the car, and that makes sense because that has to push all the fuel all the way up and then up. Okay, so by the time it gets to the carburetor, typically it'll be less than that reading, and it's probably around the a 1.5 psi, which they quote for the seal on that needle valve. Now, the other thing is, when I looked at those pumps, they did originally do 2 types, but then the later electric pumps, they were all the same. So even the Cooper S was all the same. So and they're all 2 to 3 psi. Now I checked that one with Berlin, and they quoted 2.7. Makes perfect sense. Okay.
Yeah.
So that all makes perfect sense for the minis. But all I'm saying is, if you've got a mechanical pump and you've got an HS4 carburetor, like on a later sort of 80s mini, for example, if you fit a new pump, please fit a regulator, because currently I'm not sure that that's actually matched. All right, based on the information I've been given, and what I'm also seeing on the cars. Okay, so if you've got an original pump, it's probably okay. However, the original pump won't be happy with the modern fuel, so it won't be long before you need to change the pump for a later one. And in which case, as soon as you change the pump for a later one, budget for an adjustable regulator. And the ones that I'm looking at the moment, the May’25 ones, they're about 60 to 70 pounds, or a Filter King. Now, Filter King, the one they sell from mini spares, for example, with the 67mm bowl on it, has got 1/4-inch intake and outlet pipes, and it's got a filter and a regulator, and you can set it all up. You need to, once it's installed, you need to adjust the pressure to give you the pressure you want. And I would suggest on a HS type installation, 1 to 1.25 pounds per square inch. In the unlikely event that you need more fuel, then leave the pressure the same, but just fit the larger bore needle valve. So if you've got an HS6, for example, on a 1275, I can see this being a problem, and you would need the larger bore seat to be able to supply enough fuel if you've got an engine that's producing, a good 85 horsepower or more. Yeah. So I would, just follow that advice. Okay. Now, some advice I've put out in previous videos, like how the SU works. I think I quoted 1.5 to 2 PSI. That was wrong. And that was purely because I hadn't seen the design spec at the time when I did that video. And I've put a little correction in the description of that video, just to update people, so we don't get our knickers in a twist, and we we all understand what's going on. But the most important thing to understand is HS carburetors have a much lower operating pressure, and that's really due to the fact that the little float inside the carburetor has much less leverage to be able to provide force on the needle valve, whereas the HIF one has a much longer lever arm, and you can put a lot more pressure on, so it will hold more pressure. All right. Now, I'm only talking about normally aspirated, non-boosted applications. When we go to boosted applications, that's different, because you've got a rising rate regulator, and you only need the appropriate line pressure, typically 3 psi, and then as the boost comes on, the pressure will go up. But because it's equalization, it doesn't matter that you might be running 15 pounds and you've got 18 pounds of fuel coming in, because it's still only 3 psi across the valve, so it still works. All right. So let's not get too complicated about that. Now, did I steal any of your thunder there, Darren? Because I was gonna, as you know, I was going to talk about that, but I know you're going to talk. You're going to talk a little bit more about seats, I believe. Is that correct?
Press details, because it's somewhat confusing, especially if you look at the manual. You have to account for the fact that when they spec'd out electric pumps, there was an elevation it had to push up against to get to the carbs. So yeah, it might say 2 or 3 in the book, but by the time it gets to the carb, it's below 2.
Yeah.
Just because it has to push up a hill.
And
Now,
that's really important when people are talking about these things. It's the installation, and it's the physics of what's going on, and where the pump is makes a difference to the pressure that it has to be at. Okay, so obviously if it's at the back and it's pushing higher pressure, it's got to push the fuel all the way up the line and counteract the effects of acceleration when you're going up through the gears, and the height of the fuel that it's pushing up as well. So in actual fact, it's very rarely at 3 psi. It's much less than that. And in fact, the only time you're going to have a problem typically, maybe if you're sat in traffic. Yeah. And even then, it won't be 3 psi, because you're pushing the weight of fuel up from the bottom, or from the height difference from where the fuel pump's mounted, which I believe is on the subframe, up. That's probably what, 2 feet to the carburetor.
something like that. Yeah.
So somebody cleverer than myself could work out the height difference and probably work out the pressure drop over that height. So all I'm saying is, if you've got a pump mounted at the carburetor, it needs to be a lot lower pressure than if it's mounted at the back of the car.
Yeah, and this is a problem I ran into with my red Canadian car. I fitted one of your HS4s to it to do the tuning, and then I fitted a one of those aftermarket Hardy German pumps, and I kept having issues with it overflowing occasionally. And we had a discussion about check the pressure, and I was checking the pressure, and it was at 2 pounds.
Yeah.
At the carb. So I was like, okay, it's at 2 pounds. And then we started looking at the needle and seat, and that's when we found that I had one of those needles and seats that had the tapered shape. So the video I put out this morning was talking about the shape and the radius versus the chamfered design, and why we need to have the original radius shape, because it allows that float with its very short lever arm to apply max pressure against that needle and seal off the pump pressure. So once I changed the seat to the correct design, it stopped leaking fuel.
Yeah.
I didn't have to change anything. I didn't have to include the regulator. I just changed the seat and it was fine.
And,
But I do think that a regulator would be the best choice.
absolutely. But the important thing to note here is the original design is generally the original one that came in the carburetor before you rebuilt it. So I have been using on cars that have had this problem where they're leaking, is I have been using the old seat with the new needle in it. And that creates a better seal. And it stops you having overflow problems. So anyone could do that. So if you're rebuilding a carburetor, or you find your carb's got you fitted a rebuild kit and it's now leaking, then take the old seat out. Take the new seat out, fit the old seat back in with the new Viton needle, and that usually solves your problem. And that's because the dimensions on the old seat are more favourable to higher pressure running. So that is a good little trick, and it is a trick that obviously it worked with Darren when he had that issue. Because obviously, when Darren phones me up and says your carbs are shit, they're leaking, right? I need to fix it. All right, but so that's what started this off. Is we've got seat issues, and there's me trying to go, right, let's try and fix this problem. And it's really trying to understand the whole ball of wax here as to why we've got seats like that, why they were made like that. So through this whole process, I've actually seen all the original drawings from SU, which is fantastic.
That's fantastic.
And they all look lovely. But some of them, I will admit, don't look like the products that we're getting. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and when we searched through all the carbs I had and all the spare parts I had, not a single one of my old seats were the right size. They were all the wrong size, fitted to the wrong carbs. So
Yeah.
even though they were original designs, they were all 96 thou, totally wrong for the application. In fact, I have a brand new rebuild kit here that I just measured this morning, and the brand new needle valve for this HS4 kit is a 96 thou set. So I'll have to change this out right away.
Yeah,
because it's
so even the parts supply, and that wasn't that. Don't need to say the brand, but that wasn't a genuine Berlin one, though, was it?
Correct. It is.
Right.
That was not an SU boxed.
Okay, right.
Set.
So the important thing to understand here is, people who are watching this and they want to rebuild their carb, you need to be an educated customer, right? So you need to understand what your parts are in your carburetor. Now, for a while now, when I've been going out tuning, I've been giving out the SU catalogue, and that SU catalogue. Have you got a copy there, Darren?
It might be upstairs.
Okay, all right. So I haven't got one handy, although I've got a box of them about 20 feet away. but that catalogue details all the needle and seats that were fitted in every typical application. And as Darren's found out, he looked down and he found out, well, it's a 70 thou seat for most of, well, in fact, all of the HS applications.
All of them.
Yeah. And all of the mini applications, apart from one exception, which is the MG Metro Turbo, which has the 96 thou seat. As you'd imagine, it's more power. But all I'm saying is, yet we're getting rebuild kits from certain suppliers that have got the wrong bits in, right? And that's, I don't know why that is, but customers need to be educated to the fact is what bits should be fitted in your car so you fit the right ones. But equally, for now, when it comes to pressure, just make sure you've got a regulator just before the carburetor that you can set to the right delivery pressure. Now, what people don't realise is, if you have a regulator fitted, even if you don't need the bloody regulator, okay, what that will do is every time you're going down the road and you're going over bumps and bouncing, and that needle valve leaks, okay, it goes over a bump, it'll overfill the chamber, okay. If you've got less pressure going in, okay, you're gonna waste less fuel. You're gonna put less fuel through your engine, all right, unnecessarily. This is a good thing. So when it comes to fuel pressure, the way to do it is to only have enough to fuel what you need. Okay, don't have loads. I want 6 psi. No, you don't want that. trust me, you don't want high pressure. You only want enough to make the engine work perfectly and to control that pressure so that when there's rough ground, for example, you're not overfueling the engine by accident. Okay, so that's what you have to remember. It's a float in a toilet cistern, and if you shake it, it goes up and down, right, and it will leak. Okay, and it will overflow your float bowl, and if you've got too much pressure, it will just add to the nightmare. Okay.
Right. And I was also want to add that you wouldn't necessarily want to stick a larger needle and seat valve just because you have a built engine. You kind of want to know that you actually need it before you go changing it,
Yeah.
because by changing it to a larger size, you end up with slightly less seat pressure. So it exasperates any issues at idle or any bumps, as you just pointed out.
Yeah. So if you
And
got a
that's why
bigger
you have it.
if you got a bigger hole in your jet, and you've got the same pressure coming through that jet, physics says, if you do the maths, that it takes more force to keep that needle in the seat. People don't understand that either. So if you've got a big bore seat and you've got that in an HS type carburetor, then you're going to have problems if you've got, say, 1.5 psi fuel pressure. That's going to struggle more to keep that seat closed than it is if it's yeah. Thank you, Darren. So Darren did that in his video. Please go and watch his video. He's still got it up on the board, tells you how it all works and the physics behind the seat, etc. And that's purely you can't
It's just
argue with this.
geometry.
This is physics. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just frustrating to end up with, this seat when you're expecting it to be that seat. It's just extremely frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. So all I'm going to do is just keep working with the factory to just work out where things have gone, what drawings were, and and we'll try and come up with a way forward, uh, in time. But for now, I'm just telling customers, just fit a regulator. It's actually better anyway, even if the pumps were perfect. Fit a regulator, and then only regulate down to the pressure. What you'll have less wastage, and actually, I would guarantee that you'll end up with 1 or 2 more miles to the gallon, right? Purely because you're controlling that fuel better.
If it's rising and falling in the jet, you're getting a variation in your mixture, which could potentially be power loss if it goes too lean. So yeah, you want to have as smooth and consistent as possible. So yeah, that's why we've been talking about this subject for, I don't know, weeks now, because it's really critical
Yeah,
that people understand. And just because you have a set of twin carbs doesn't mean you need bigger valves either. You have twice as much carb to flow, so you should just stick
yeah.
with the smaller valves.
Yeah, so that's
Um,
something to people need to understand. And I often see the other way around. It's like, I've got twin carbs, so I need big bore. No. Um, if your car has a single carb and it does 45 miles to the gallon on a run, and it does 45 miles to the gallon on a twin carb application, well, guess what? It's only got half the amount of fuel going through each needle valve, okay, on a twin application. So what does that mean? Well, that means actually with twins, you've got twice the problem, right? Because if they're both bouncing up and down, right, and you've got too much fuel pressure, guess what's going to happen? You're going to waste twice as much fuel. So in reality, when you've got a twin carb application, you need to get that fuel pressure right down. And I would suggest, if you're coming up to the carburetor, really, 1.25 psi is plenty at the carbs, not at the back, at the carbs. And that's where you may need, if you've got a very highly tuned engine, that's where you might need the bigger needle valves. But you can only put those in if you actually need it. Okay. Because if you've got 1.25 pounds and 270 thou needle valves, you're flowing a lot of fuel. Okay. Even at that very low pressure. And that's what you need to understand. And even if you've got a bigger engine, you've got 4 carbs. Well, you've got 4 lots of fuel coming through. You've got 4 toilet cisterns that can all flow together, way too much fuel. Okay. So getting that pressure right and only having the fuel that you need and not having a needle valve that has to fight to close is definitely the way forward to having a nice running car, and one that's not going to end up washing too much fuel through it. All right.
to create that situation, you'd almost have to be flooring it for a great period of time to drain that bowl because it's a very large reservoir of fuel. Um,
and those couple of customers are the ones they're the ones the reason why when I sell my fast road H, I thought it comes with a bigger jet in it. All right. But that's what I'm telling people. It's got the bigger jet in it, so turn the pressure down. All right. You only need the pressure that you need to supply the fuel you need. Any more is a waste. Yeah. 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 So I also had another customer that I was present at when they fitted a carburetor of mine, and this wasn't a new one; it's one of my rebuilt ones. And they started up, and it just pushed fuel out the overflow. And I thought, okay, could be a faulty carb. So I gave them another one. Guess what? Second one went on, same problem. And at this point, I had to explain to the customer, not the carbs. Yeah, problem is the fuel pump. Guess what fuel pump they had on the car? Nope. It was one of those nice £26 cheap mechanical pieces of crap. Yeah. And so I said, I know what the problem is. The pressure's too high. He said, but it's a mechanical pump. I said, don't care. Pressure's too high. Measured it, 4.25 pounds delivered to the carb. Uh, Problem. So the remedy was we left the carb on it, and they changed the fuel pump, put on a regulator. Problem went away. Yeah. Yeah. And as I said before, it has other benefits. So in reality, you should be fitting a regulator anyway.
Enough. No fittings, no adjustments, just in line. But they got to make it to a wider range of consumers. So like yeah, the ones I can get over here, I believe, are a 1 to 5 range roughly. So they're just turned down to basically the minimum, and they're not that expensive. I think they're like $40 or $50 for one. Yeah, that's how important it is.
Stack of questions. So I think we better start going through the questions. Okay. So apologies to everybody to trying to educate you all about fuel pressure, but it's necessary. That's because it's the problems we're seeing. So let's go through the questions. Some bloke, at what do you regard as bore wash rich? Right, my answer is anything over stoichiometry. Okay, and let me just qualify what that means is clearly 0.95 is not going to be washing loads of oil off your bores, right? But what say for example lambda 1 means is there is no excess fuel, okay, after combustion, so it can't bore wash. Okay, if you go 0.95 there is some excess fuel. If there's excess fuel starts to wash the bores. Okay, so the richer you go, the more bore washing happens, right? Now if you're down at 0.85, that's washing the bores. Trust me, that is definitely washing the bores. But you need 0.85 or thereabouts on the lambda scale to get full power. Okay, but you're at full power for so brief amount of time, it makes no difference, right? Most of the time when you drive the car, you're at part throttle, you're cruising, your light duty work, whatever it is, right? Going to the shops, cruising down the motorway, whatever it is. That's where you can have your fueling under control, okay? And if you've got the right ignition system, you can have it around 0.98, 0.99 lambda 1, maybe 1.02 even, okay? That is where you should be for maximum engine life. That's the issue. So any excess fuel is bad. So if you have to have excess fuel when your foot's hard down, the engine's under load, only put it in when you need it. Okay. And then when you get off the throttle, take the fuel back out again. It's as simple as that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Some bloke, I run methane. I haven't got any experience with that. So I can't tell you. I can't tell you straight away what the readings mean because I haven't tried methane. Closed loop at wide open throttle, 0.95 ish, but at idle ECU is slow. That's 1.1 to 1.2 low. can take 20 seconds till it settles. Is this too lean at idle? Why are people worried about lean at idle? It makes no difference to anything, right? Lean at idle is good as long as you can combust what's in there and you don't get excess emissions. That's it, right? There is no detrimental effect to the engine because there's no load. All right. So, if you can imagine a car, a modern car, when you take your foot off the throttle, there is no fuel going through it. Okay. There's nothing. All right. So, you know, infinite lean. Yeah. Yes, there's no combustion happening, so it can't be obviously getting hot. But my point is, uh, you don't want fuel in, right? You only want enough fuel to make the thing idle cleanly. Anything extra is bad. So what you're saying there is not an issue, so long as it's not affecting the what's coming out the tailpipe. All right. So lean mixes can cause an increase in unburnt hydrocarbons. I know that sounds bonkers, but basically even if you've got a lean mix, if you can't ignite it, then you get unburnt fuel coming out the exhaust, which is hydrocarbons. So that's what you've got to understand, is there will be a sweet spot. Now the way to do that is to put it on the a 4-gas analyzer typically, and then gradually increase the mixture until you find the lowest hydrocarbons. That is your idle mix. Simple. Yeah. Yeah, and the condition of the engine and all the rest of it. So yeah, but Darren's absolutely right. Your coil power has one of the biggest impacts on that, which is why we always bang on about it when it comes to getting a car through emissions. Is, it's no good going up with a 3 ohm coil because we're all going to laugh at you because it's not going to happen. There's not enough coil power. Yeah. Uh, no.
Fine. Leaning out between shift is a perfectly normal situation to have because you're not demanding anything of the engine. Yeah.
Needs to put fuel in it, right? Unfortunately, you have to put fuel in it to make it work, right? That's the problem. So if you do put fuel in it, only put the minimum amount. That's it. Okay. And if you have to put a lot of fuel in when you're at full power, you put a lot of fuel in at full power, and then you take it out again as soon as you take your foot off. Right, that's in essence what you have to do. All right. Really? Who'd have thought it? Yeah. Um, yeah. As I said, the SU is demand sensitive, and that's a wonderful wonderful thing about that carburetor is it'll actually put the fuel in where you want it if you calibrate it properly. Uh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Troy Powell, hi guys from Oregon. Yeah, nice to see you on, Troy. Excellent. Uh, Gomer, hi there. Rachel, hi. Nice to see you on there. Oh, that makes me. I just want to make a comment. In the last 6 months, my female viewership has doubled on YouTube. I, I have no idea why that is, but there we go. Stranger things have happened because typically these sort of channels, you're just full of guys. But slowly, there's more and more females watching. They're obviously learning stuff from the videos, which is fantastic. So clearly, they're not watching for me, so that's fine. um, but all joking aside, it's really good that obviously the videos that I'm certainly doing are starting to be viewed by females because obviously they're finding it a source of information that is useful for perhaps their classic cars, which is great. So thanks for tuning in, Rachel. Appreciate that. Some bloke, yeah. Cost you fuck all. Get the likes up, fellas. Yeah, all right. And thanks very much for letting me remind people. 43 people online. Let's all have a like, please. So thank you very much. Luke Fish, hi guys. Yeah, Matt Steele. Darren, you know about Matt. So I'm training Matt in about 3 weeks' time. So he's going to be another trained tuner, and he's the first person down in Cornwall. So that's going to be fantastic for the people down in Cornwall. They'll have someone that they can take their cars, their SU cars, to get tuned, which is excellent. Billy Joe, Denny, hi, hello guys, hi, nice to see you. Luke Fish, we have that in the fire service on our pumps. We have to equate for frictional loss for the pressure we need to see. Fire service know a lot about, the good thing about fire services is they don't just know about fires. They have to understand the physics of fighting fires and getting water up high, for example, and how much horsepower it needs, things like that, and pipe diameters, flow rates, pressure drops, everything. They understand it. So well done, Luke, and you can appreciate where we're coming from. Okay, so back to the noughties, maybe around 0.68 bar, assuming the height is six. So we was talking about the 2 feet height. So yeah, maybe around 0.6 bar, assuming the height is 600 mil. There you go. So that's actually quite high, to be fair. I think 0.6 bar. Yeah, that's about 6 psi, isn't it? Something like that. No, 0.6. That's about 8 psi. That might be a bit. That's a bit high, I think. Sorry, 0.06. That's better. Okay. Yeah. Or 0.9 psi. See, take the 0.9 off the 2.7. It's getting better, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Matt Steele agreed. Yeah. So the other thing, Matt Steele's a plumber, so he should know about pressure as well. Yeah. There you go. Usually 0.1 for every 1,000 millimeter every meter, so he knows stuff. Yeah. Okay. Some bloke. What is the downside to fitting a high flow needle valve and have done? Well, the downside is it requires more pressure to hold it in the seat. So in reality, you should have, even though you fit that bigger valve, you just want to reduce the delivery pressure a little bit. Okay. So I don't know your application, but if you've got a normal A series, then, I don't know what your power levels is. Let's say you've got a 70 horsepower A series, 2 psi is fine. That's all you need. But that's at the carb. That's not at the back of the car. So that's delivered to the carb. All right. Darren Robert Shaw. Shit, I forgot this was on. Hi, guys. All right, Darren. Okay. AC, you've just answered my question. Okay, yeah, and that's when I was talking about it earlier, I think. Troy Powell actually had me put the 96 in mine and I ran it at 3 psi. This is from an SPI tank with a pressure regulator. Yeah. Should I drop the pressure down to 2 or 2.5? Troy, that's interesting. As I said, apply the principle. Turn it down to the minimum you can get away with, and that will be better anyway. All right. So there's no harm if it's not leaking at 3 psi. That's fine. But in terms of minimizing wastage, yeah, turn it down. Obviously, if you go too low, you won't get sufficient fuel in. But my point is, if you've got a wideband gauge in the car, you'll be able to detect that, and then you'll be able to find the pressure that works for you all the time. Yeah. Troy Powell says, does Darren's image freeze for anyone else? I haven't noticed that freezing, actually. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. Right. There's a few other people saying it has frozen. So, okay. So we'll just keep an eye on Darren's line. That's fair enough. Okay. Yeah. Back to the noughties. He's been practicing sitting very still. Right, okay. Seaman Sam. If people are spending many hundreds of pounds on a nice new car, why do they bother using a crappy mechanical fuel pump? Just get an electronic one with a regulator and filter. Seriously, don't get some people. Well, that's very simple because in the applications I see, people don't want electric pump because people like things to look original. Okay, so in your view, you wouldn't understand that, but in someone else's view, they wouldn't understand your view. All right, and that's the problem with people with cars, and they all want their own things. And some people like things to look right. And this particular guy that had the mechanical pump and had to put a regulator in, he actually tried to, obscure the regulator so you couldn't see it, right? To try and make the under bonnet look right. Okay. Again, that's not for everybody, but everybody has their reasons for doing stuff. Um, yeah, yeah. However, it is very rare if you use an original pump. If you use a cheap aftermarket one, well, roll the dice. And as we all saw from Tom's Classic Modern's lovely video, unfortunately, that guy did roll the dice and he almost lost. But they were very lucky it went overnight. And they was also very lucky it didn't lose the workshop when it caught fire. So yeah, very very serious that is when the diaphragm ruptures and then it siphoned all the fuel out of the tank and filled the gearbox, which is not good. But they spotted it, which was excellent. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. McCaig. Hi lads, I have a 998 I rebuilt 30 over dish pistons, BP 255 camshaft stage one, have fitted an AFR gauge. After a little needle profiling, I'm going 105, 108 lean on a red spring, maybe more profiling or a yellow spring. AC, please provide needle profile. uh I can't provide you a needle profile because I'd need to be doing a remote tune for that because I need to see all the figures. All right. So unfortunately, I can't give you a profile because I need to know how your engine's running, and I can't do that in this format. And you can see Darren's nodding there because Darren does remote tuning and he knows exactly where I'm coming from.
But yeah, you got to get your profile set up first. And also, like what the ignition can handle, right? So as we mentioned earlier, the 3 ohm system can only do like a 0.95 ish, 96 maybe on the Lambda scale if it's really good. Whereas a point 0.8 ohm, like 65D or a high output power spark can do like 102, 103, maybe even 104, depending on how tight the carb is. So, depending on your ignition system, yeah, 102, 103 might be too much or it might be okay.
108, yeah, and still running clean uh, on a high power. But that's because
Yeah,
the cylinder pressures are down and you can run it even leaner. So as soon as the pressures go up, then it's harder to ignite. So you need more power. And this is why modern cars have very very high power ignition systems. Especially ones that are like because a lot of modern cars now are boosted, so they have the coil on plug to make it more reliable, and you can get a massive thump to the spark plug, which is what you need.
yeah. And the reason they do coil unplug for every single cylinder is because they have not enough time to charge that massive coil, so they have to do it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and they all do it because it's very important for ignition performance.
yeah, absolutely. Luke Fish, you've literally just answered my question by answering someone else. Yeah. Good, thank you. Okay. Stevie W. When I worked in BMC BL dealership in the late 70s and 80s, we replaced electric fuel pumps with the pushers and pullers depending on application. Absolutely. Um, okay. Right. Darren Robertshaw on target for my 60 MPG after fitting a vacuum gauge AC. Yeah. So, okay. So I did tell Darren that this Darren Robertshaw had been on, and he's basically looking at setting himself up with one of my nice new carbs, which is excellent. And he's also rubbing his hands because he's going to have a go at trying to crack the 60 miles per gallon. All right. So he's funny enough fitting a fuel regulator, and he's and a vacuum gauge, and he's going to have a go at trying to crack the 60 miles per gallon. So interestingly, one of the things I'm going to be doing in the future, I think I'm going to introduce a board of all the cars that myself and other trained tuners myself that I've trained about customers' cars and about their miles per gallon. So what we want to try and do here, or the idea is everybody talks about, oh, car goes great, loads more power, brilliant, right? Nobody talks about economy, which is the other benefit of having a proper tune-up. So, and some of my customers are getting exceptional economy. Okay, and it's starting to become a little bit of a race with people as trying to, can I get 60 miles a gallon? So we shall see. But I've got a few guys at the moment, and the highest one I know at the moment is 56.8, and that's in a nominally 90 horsepower engine. So it's no slouch. Okay, so you know my personal best is 58.5 in my own car, but that was with twin carbs and a big 1380. So all I'm saying is fuel economy is absolutely possible with performance when the carburetors are set perfectly and the timing set perfectly. But I'll be very interested to hear from anybody that I've tuned, or anybody that Darren's tuned, or any other my other network of tuners that I've trained to see what their economy that they're getting, because what we really want to do is push out the benefits of having your car set up properly. So anybody who's got black spark plugs doesn't stand a chance. This is all the people that have nice, crisp, white burning plugs, nice and economical. They're running around the Lambda 1 point all the time. They've got a high power ignition system and they've got high gearing. So that 56.8, one of my customers, which is a car that I tuned when I was up in the Midlands at the farm, which is about 6-8 weeks ago now, something like that. I did that one. So that was a tune up I did there, and he's gone from, I think he was getting like 28, and he's now 56.8. So with like twice the power, so he's very happy. Yeah.
Still need to fix my red Canadian car so I can finish my tuning project on that. Because I was messing about with vacuum advance and how much my car could handle at this altitude before I developed that primary gear issue. So once I get my car back up and running, I'll be able to continue on with my testing. But I think it's a great thing to have as a leaderboard, because if you don't know that you could actually get this kind of economy, then you just assume that your car gets 30 or 40 or whatever it gets, not realizing there was more potential to be had. Now, yes, there's a lot of driving characteristics and like tires and things like that, but generally, like if you're not getting at least in the 40s, I'd say Imperial, there's something wrong.
Yeah, you're either a terrible driver or that engine's very badly tuned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and like even my poor car, yeah, it burns quite a bit of oil, and it still does a decent amount of economy on highway
Yeah.
speeds.
So,
Uh,
I mean, you've got basically a 3.5 cylinder car, haven't you? It's quite worn. And what's the imperial figure you've got out of it? Yeah, yeah. I mean, 55 to the gallon. And what's the final drive? 3.1. It's a 2.9 with a yeah, with a low compression. 8.3 to 1 compression standard 998, with no modifications other than a decent timing curve and all the rest of it. And yeah, 55 to the gallon. That's bonkers, right? And yes, it's got a 2.9 diff, but he's at 5,200 feet elevation. There's no air, and that engine is still uh, cutting the mustard, which is absolutely fantastic. And that's the point. When you tune these engines in and you get that, you're tuned for power, but you're tuning for power via efficiency. So once you get that efficiency right and you get that fueling under control, magic things happen with fuel economy, and that's what people are finding once they've had our tuning.
Not worse. Um, so it's on its way out, but I'd still like to finish my economy testing before I finally pull it.
he performed after talking to me about economy. So I gave him a few ideas about how to screw some maximum economy out of it, of which he's gone away and done some bench testing and got some excellent results. However, I said there's no point telling people about those results. You need to get it out on the road and actually see if it does exactly what we've proved, if that makes sense. And if it does, then yeah, people are going to go, "How did you do that?" And we'll save that for when it happens, because we don't want to talk about it because it might not work. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so Guitar Rich, my 850 starts well now after watching. Changed core from wet to dry at 2.8 ohm and points. Did tap its two. Just need to dial the carb mixture in, etc. Yep, you got to keep going. But once you go through the whole lot, clearly you've been watching my videos, and you know watch Darren as well when he does his tune. Start with the ignition, work all the way through, get your timing right, get your vacuum right, and then get your fueling right, and then you'll be on top of the world, so to speak. He's absolutely correct. I bet they were manufactured to apply different pressures. They were.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the correct capacitor for a 3 ohm coil, please? You mean the condenser in the distributor? If I remember rightly, what's that? 0.2222 micro. To, two to yeah, it's either 220 microfarads, or I can't remember what it is. 0.22. Oh, d- look in a manual. So I'll let Darren look that up in the manual, and I'll carry on talking. But manuals are quite good. All right. So what we've found, and all joking aside, is people are not using manuals nowadays. All right, and this is frustrating. They'll pick their phone up, they'll send me a message and say, "What spark plug for this? What spark plug gap?" Right. And it's like, you don't need to ask me for a spark plug gap. That's what your book's for. Okay. Again, this question about the condenser. Now, I'm not sure if it'll be in there. I think it is somewhere. You just got to, yeah, yeah. I- I'll let you carry on looking for it. But yeah, the point is, a lot of this information you don't need to ask for because it's in your manual. Now, as I said to Darren just earlier today when I was on a call with him, um, some of the manual information is not relevant. Okay, right? Educate everybody, please, Darren. There you go. All right. So most of them are around, yeah, 2 microfarad. Okay, so 2.22, something like that is absolutely fine. All right, simple as that.
The distributor, so you can actually get a generic capacitor, and yeah,
As well. In fact, it can even work more reliably. Yeah, the distributor doctor ones, they're the ones I stock in my tuning kit, and they've been excellent so far.
I was not. I just tossed.
Suffers with a random annoying tick uh, over RPM about 500 variants. What shall I'm not quite sure what you're saying. You mean it starts ticking, tick, 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 tick at a certain RPM, or are you saying it does it over a 500 RPM range? Not quite sure what you're saying there, Andrew. but if it's ticking, it's usually cam follower stroke rocker related. And if it's a John Cooper Works conversion, if it's got 1.5 rockers on it, guess what that's telling you? Unfortunately, it's telling you things are worn out. All right. So if it has got 1.5 rockers on it, I'd say your followers and the cam lobes are worn out. Yeah. Okay. So some bloke just says you're on near permanent freeze. Well, I haven't seen that. You've been fine. So I think we've got issues. Okay. Okay. Guitar Rich. No, someone had put 6s in the 850, changed to 5. Runs nice. Funny that. Some bloke vacuum and mechanical. How much total advance will you see in a typical stock Mini? Right. So total advance with vacuum and mechanical. If you aim for 45, it's a good starting point. All right. As in a maximum figure. You can have more, you can have less. Just depends on the application. Yeah. Yeah. The most important thing here is don't assume anything, measure it, and then know what you're getting. And then only at that point, and I think you found this out as well, Darren, when you was using imported vacuum, how much vacuum have you actually got to run that vacuum unit at 5,200 feet elevation? As it turns out, in your case, not much.
Nothing there.
Okay. No, measure stuff. Okay. Actually work out what you need, and then you need to make things because you won't get them off the shelf to do what you want. Okay. So that's how you get those vacuum units to work. Really work for you. Um, yeah.
It was so worn out. Yeah.
Standard road engine using Shell E5 fuel with an additive. Also, what gap? Uh, Certainly won't be putting 5s in it. They're for 998 engines. So that's BP6 plug. Yeah. And what gap? Well, I don't know what ignition system you're running. So there's 2 gaps it could be. That's 25 or 35. If you're using a 3 ohm coil or a 1.5 ohm coil, it's 25. If you're using a 0.8 ohm coil with a 65D Dizzy or a Power Spark high power unit, it's 35. Nice and simple.
But you really should use 25 or 35.
Power coil, but it's not quite. It's about 1.2 ohm or something like that. But I recommend if you're going to use a 123, use the highest power one they do, which is the lowest ohm one that they'll run. Okay, and you buy their one, not somebody else's. V-Man, I have a 1993 SPI Cooper. What upgrade coil should I fit? Ballast, non-ballast? Keep getting told different. If you've got an SPI, you don't want any ballast on it because that's already running the highest power coils, running a 0.8 ohm coil. So you don't want to change anything. You just want to make sure it's got a 0.8 ohm coil fitted, a factory coil, and everything will be just fine.
Yeah, I really like the 65D ignition. I like the
Yeah.
compactness of that module. I like how you can replace it from the outside if
Yeah.
you need to.
And it's outside where it can be cooled, which is a good thing. Okay, some bloke, Red X Roboy is a top dog vacuum gauge. Love the name. I wouldn't know that one, but recommendations are always good, especially from people who've used them. Okay, Sean McCaig. Okay, thanks. Would the standard Power Spark electronic module kit suffice? Have at present the original Petronics ignite. So I personally don't like any of the kits that bolt on. All right. So if you're going to fit a Power Spark one, buy the proper Dizzy with the module inside the Dizzy, the large module and the high power one. Okay, and that's the Dizzy that has the proper metal reluctor in there that's pinned to the shaft, so it's not going to move, and it's nice and reliable, and you can fire the high ohm coil. Anything else is just not going to cut the mustard in my book. The exception is the 65D. The 65D is effectively the same unit. It's just based on an older design, but it does the same thing. Chuck Heiser. Recently, all my brakes locked up. Darren said to replace the master cylinder, so I did. It's the yellow band or dual front back type. Should the lower larger fitting be run to the front or rear brakes? So on that master cylinder, which one is it? I couldn't tell you because I don't do them. The upper or lower, which one goes to the back? Yeah. Anyway, I don't know the answer.
Internal in the master, I don't know what the difference is between the two.
So, but if someone else knows which the port is, I don't know, so I can't help. I can't help you there. Sorry. Marlin Man, what are the range of normal vacuum levels you would expect to see on a ported vacuum? I love these people who think, oh, I don't know where your port is, where it's been drilled, the tolerance, the positioning in relation to your butterfly. I can't answer that question. Yeah. What elevation you're at? You need to go measure it. Yeah. And then it is what you've measured. And therefore, you need to then work with those figures for your car. That's, unfortunately, there's too many variances in it to be able to say this is what you should get. Right, what we got here? I just noticed that my phone's going flat, so I just need to keep an eye on my battery. So I'm draining it faster than I'm putting energy in, which is interesting. So I might have to change to a mains charger. Okay, so Luke Fish, regarding the white crisp plugs you mentioned, mine are white, and so is porcelain. I've noticed a little bit of carbon gathering on the bottom of the electrode. Is that a sign of needing a hot plug? No. Carbon on the electrode generally means you've got a problem or they're not getting hot enough. Yeah. So all I would say, Luke, is carbon on the electrode depends on many, many things, including how many miles they've done and all the rest of it. Matt Steele said the feed's a little funky. Okay. I'm not seeing that, everybody out here. So what I'm seeing is everything's perfect. So clearly different people in different parts of the country got different feed speeds, because what I'm getting here is fine. And Darren is appearing fine on my screen as well. So I don't think he needs to drop out because I've not seen him freeze. Okay. So I think there might be internet issues, different parts of the world for people. Okay. Stefan Mini Cooper said hi. Back to the noughties. When looking at a modified head, what, in your opinion, is a good modifier from a bad one? I'm not talking about specific application, but in the past you have mentioned good modifiers. Good modifiers are the ones that have been producing products for a number of years, and they use flow benches and they use dyno results to understand stuff. So, people who know what they're doing, in my book, and no particular order, I would say you got people like, top of the pile for me is Keith Carver. Then you got Swift Tune, and then you got Phil Dorr. They're the first three names that come to my mind. Now, there are many others that grind heads, and there are a number of those that grind very good heads and don't use flow benches. I don't use a flow bench, but I don't grind heads anymore because I haven't had time. Okay, but I used to do that, but I used to use dynos, so I understand, the effects I was getting and the performance I was getting, etc. But if you want to look at a cylinder head, any cylinder head that comes out with huge ports in it for a road car is not right. Okay, so the best cylinder heads for road cars are the ones that have reasonably standard-ish ports, but nicely smoothed, but very well developed valve throats and around the valve guide bosses. So the best heads are the ones that have had a lot of work done around the valve seats and valves themselves, especially ones that have got multiple angles, like 3, 4, or 5 angle seats. Okay. Steve Humphries, hi. See, watch your tuning videos. Love them. Very informative. Will a static tune you do produce the same readings from Lambda as a rolling road tune with the engine under load? Yeah, very similar. The only difference is I can't do the full power fueling, so that's a guess. So if I do your tune on a rolling road, that's better than me doing a static tune. However, if you've got someone that doesn't know what they're doing on a dyno, and I do this quite often, and I go out to people and they've had a dyno tune, a professional dyno tune, and they make an absolute mess of the engine, and a decent static tune will blow it into the weeds. Okay, if the operator doesn't know what they're doing. So people often ask me this one. It says, "Oh, well, how can it be the same?" Well, that's the way the carburetor works. Okay, you won't necessarily do that with a Weber, because the carburetor works differently. But the SU, it does. Yeah, yeah. Stefan Mini Cooper. As there are valves leaking in cylinder number 3, I'll take the head off and bring it to a machine shop for 3-angle valve job. Also, we'll give them 8 new valves and we'll dish-shroud the edges. Yeah, that will definitely help. Right. Matt still says yellow tag, top is front brakes. Thanks, Matt. There's a man who works on cars. We just talk about cars and tune them. Some bloke measure vacuum, then tune advance. Yeah, absolutely. 1, 2, 3 allows this. Yeah, so if you've got 1, 2, 3 tune, for example, you can use it with your phone and map the timing mechanically and the vacuum as well. So the 1, 2, 3 tune is excellent for doing economy. The only downside is, I really want it to be able to fire more coil. If you can fire more coil, then that would be my top dog dizzy.
Information the distributor was seeing while you were driving. You couldn't change it on the fly, but the swapping of maps was easy enough to do with the engine off. So I really liked how easy the system was to use.
It's not freezing here, so definitely there's some local connection issues for people. Guitar Rich master cylinder from looking for myself top to front has come up more often. Matthew sounds confident on that too. Yeah, okay. Sean McKay, thanks again. I will be in touch, AC, for a remote tuning session before I ruin any more needles. Yeah. And that's when people start making their, adjusting needlers because they see me do it and it's easy. That's what they think. And then when they start doing it, they go, oh, yeah, It's a lot finer than you think. Okay. And that's why I did those how it works videos. And when you get to part 3, and I'll start talking about the fineness of the changes required, and your intense thou range, and that's where it sorts the men from the boys out. And that's why I even mentioned in there a lot of professional tuners don't go there purely because it's difficult and it's time consuming. So, and you've got to know your onions, and that's what I do with the training. Is I show people what to do and how to do it to get the best results.
Yeah, and it's definitely a process. You've got to follow along. You can't just jump ahead to grinding away in the needle, or make assumptions about your oil grade, or you have to let the car tell you what it wants. You adjust your needle accordingly.
Steve Crook, would you use a copperhead gasket or Victor Raints with Loctite sealant? Job done.
It's funny enough that Loctite sealant's not available over here.
Ah,
I
you
have to
you must have a different version.
There's some other version of it, but yeah, I
Yeah.
once looked, and they don't sell it over here.
Fast 11:30. Would I be better going for a 295 or 940, sinking the valves? My aim is low down torque and acceleration. You would be better off on 11:30 going for a 295 if you can find one. Simple as that. But don't go porting it out and making the ports bigger. Focus around the valve seats and put bigger inlet valves in, and bigger exhaust. So take it up 11:30. Take that up to 27 exhaust, and probably go right up to a 1.33 inch intake. Yeah, which is what? 33 mil intake. That will make the most of that, and then reshape the chambers around that. Multi-angle seat, make a nice job, but don't go hogging the inlet ports out because the 295 is already big. Yes. Oh yeah. Well done. Nice at 1.3 rockers, and you'll have a cracking little engine then. Matt Steele, bore wash potential, found that out firsthand. A lot of people who play with minis find that out firsthand, unfortunately. Rich Holder, hey AC, we're running a 998 stage 1 BP5 ES HT leads, all 4.8k ohm, but the coil is a 3 ohm as we bought the car. Should we swap to 1.5 ohm and also change the leads for power spark? Oh, this is very simple question. Okay, so if it's a car, you don't say what age it is. So if it's a 70s car with no ballast resistor on it, and you're running points, okay, then you need to stay with a 3 ohm coil, right? If you want to upgrade it, put a 1.5 ohm coil on it by all means, but then you have to put a ballast resistor in, and you need to be able to bypass that ballast resistor when you crank the car so you get the maximum effect. What I would do is change that ignition for a power spark unit, recurved, and put a 0.8 ohm coil on it. And then you bypass all that shit, go to maximum power, and then you'll have something that can light off a lean mix, and you can have the engine tuned to get the most out of it. So leads at 4.8k, they're all factory standard leads at 4.8. I tend to run anywhere between 1 and 3. They will be better. All right. So, but don't run out and change the leads if your leads are good, right? You don't waste money. Wait until they're a year old or 18 months old, and then change them out for another set of power sparks, and then you'll be in the right area.
Answer that question, but you need to verify.
With the points, but again, the same applies. You could just upgrade it to an electronic system, which would be better with a high power module, run a 0.8 ohm core, and then you need to put a ballast bypass wire in to run the full battery voltage to the coil. Okay. What else we got here? So we still got 45 people on. That's good. 42 likes. Any more likes? That would be great. Thank you. Anybody who's watching hasn't given us a like, that would be great. Thumbs up. Luke Fish, by the way, I modified my dashpot piston damper after watching your video, AC. After messing with different oils and reducing the size of the top of the damper, the downshifting is now perfect. Thanks, mate. Excellent. That's what we like. That'll do it. Yep. Tim Rice, hi. I'm fitting a new choke cable. Does the choke linkage have to be completely free of the fast idle screw when it is in the off position? Yes. Because if it touches the fast idle, it'll hold the throttle open. Yeah. So you want to make sure that there is sufficient gap so that the throttle butterfly is unimpeded. Some bloke. Modern cars run 88 degrees. Why do Mini and most other 60s and 70s cars run 82-degree stats? I wasn't aware they did. What does the manual say, Darren, about a thermostat for a 60s or 70s car? You used to consult the book, like everybody should be consulting the book, which clearly they don't. So while Darren's looking that up, let's get some answers. Yeah, Luke Fish says, thanks for all the answers, gents. No problem. That's what we're here.
Standard is an 82. It's right. Yeah. Cold. Yeah, cold climate was 88. Hot climate was 74.
It'll tell you 88 degrees. So generally, you want to be running 88 degree stat. Now, you want to make sure that your system is a high pressure, so at least 15 pounds cap on there, preferably 16, 17. And you want to make sure your cooling system has no leaks, so it can hold that pressure, and then you won't have any problem with running 88 degree stat. Now, if you live in California, maybe you might have an issue in the middle of the summer. Okay, so an 82 degree stat would definitely be better for you there. But in reality, 88 degrees is more efficient. So run the 88 degrees, and you'll be in the best place to get the best out of your engine. And what was your fuel economy again? And what was that stat you were running? Yeah. So we just need to jam that home. So yeah, everybody runs around with an 82 stat and a 74 stat. You're leaving economy and efficiency on the table.
Not really well made.
This is the 9 and 8, question. Okay, so if it's got a power spark already fitted, is that a module or a dizzy? Because it depends on what power spark's fitted as to what coil you can run. Now, clearly, if it's an 86, it's going to be running a ballast wire. Now, you've already mentioned it's a 3 ohm coil, so we're already wrong there. So we do want a 1.5, but depending on what your module is, then you may need to keep the ballast wire or you may need to not keep the ballast wire. Clearly, if you've got a system which is variable dwell, which I believe all the power spark ones are, even the kits that you fit, then you can get rid of the ballast cable and get the full power out of that 1.5 ohm setup. All right. But we need to know what the module is in that dizzy to really understand the best setup for you. Tim Rice, that's the choke cable question. The choke setting, brilliant, thanks. No problem. All right, no problem, Tim. Marlin Man, any gains of the high power ignition system at wide open top end, or more just starting and leaner cruising? It's basically about starting, and it is about being able to light off a lean mix. Okay, so in reality, oh,
Yep.
I think you've dropped out there. There we go. Okay, so I think Darren's going to go offline, and he'll come back in a second. So I would suggest that you won't actually get a massive difference in top end power because that's under full load, but you will get a difference in what you can light off and how much torque you'll generate at part throttle, and obviously economy. Some bloke, definitely 82. Why modern standard is 88? It's efficiency. That's why.
Yeah, so 88's right around the ideal temperature for the flash point of gasoline. It just vaporizes at that temperature more effectively or efficiently. So if you're running an intake manifold and or chamber, cylinder chamber temperatures right there, then it instantly vaporizes the fuel, thus increasing the efficiency of the fuel.
Yeah. Luke Fish, Darren did a great video on setting up the choke. Found that very helpful. There you go. Regarding the fast idle, in all my years of working on minis, who knew it was set up completely wrong?
That's why I made the video.
That's it. Yeah. And we did talk about that video before he did it, because I said it might sound silly, but people don't know how to do these things. Some bloke, my MPG is 18 miles to the gallon. I've got a Land Rover. Well, we're not all perfect. But your MPG could be better, because I know somebody who's getting, what I worked on their Land Rover, they was getting over 20 by the time we put an advanced curve in it and dialed it in a little bit. But they were running an SU, which I tuned on a dyno as well. So they had more power and more economy. FMF Guff. Okay, is luminous magnetronic considered any good? Yeah, it works, but your plastic disc can become loose, and you're stuck with not particularly high coil power. But the system works, and I've used them for years. I'm talking 25 years ago. We used to use magnetronics all the time, but Power Spark's come out with a higher energy setup. So I use that. I use the system that produces the most spark, because that gives me the best all-round performance. So that's why I'll go with Power Spark. Yeah. Yep. Matt Steele, what are your views on oil catch cans? Have you any suggestions on best way to plumb it in? Just doing some research, turbo application. So I would suggest oil catch cans, don't like them on road cars, because I like vacuum in the sump, right? So the ultimate setup for me for a turbo application would be an evacuum sump system sucked out in the exhaust. Okay, so you would run a lot of vacuum in the sump to really help suck those rings into the bores and take all the fumes out and push them down into the exhaust. If you suck them into the engine, you can dilute the octane rating of the fuel, and on a boosted application, not so good, right? You want all your octane where you need it. So a vacuum sump system is probably the best. I would not like to use a catch can system, because on a turbo engine you just end up blowing all the oil out and pressurizing the sump, and it doesn't end well. Yeah. Yeah. Luke Fish, may I ask a few more questions? I didn't want to be greedy. Yeah, that's what you're here for. And if no one asks a question, it goes very quiet. We still only got 47 people on this week, Darren, or this time. So we're a bit lower than we were. Well, we're at 44 now. So clearly people are getting bored, or they know what they're letting themselves in for. So that's it. I've just got to ask more questions. Yeah, hey man, V man. Hey man, hey, got you both moving now, so we're obviously working properly. Day old 78. Evening all. I'm currently replacing the head gasket on my 1275 A plus engine. I've noticed a lot of build up on the pistons. Is this normal or is there a potential issue? What sort of build up? What colour is the build up? Is it black carbon? Is it wet? Describe that. Matt Steele comes back with, was thinking of running into the rocker from the breathers, then out to the can. Yeah, I would avoid that, Matt, and I would go for the vacuum sump system. And I'll talk to you about it when we do the training. Yeah, some bloke, I was 18, now I'm nearer 23, 24. Yeah, and your diktat makes my methane fire up kin lovely. Yeah, yeah. Methane is hard to light. It's a bit like propane. Propane's hard to light. LPG. So you need, you need a modern car ignition system to really thump that off. If you try and run LPG in a classic Mini with a 3 ohm coil, good luck with that. It will run, but it's a lot better with a 0.8 ohm coil. It's much more normal. So I'm glad that you've used some of our teachings there, and it's obviously worked for you with your methane, which is excellent. It said your teachings have changed the engine. Yeah, coil power's king, right? And this is, just because you've got petrol, and you've heard people say, does it affect the top end power? It doesn't affect the top end power anything like it does at the part throttle running, and that's where coil power is king. Yeah, Darren Robert Shaw. Everyone will be pissed. I see. It's bank holiday year. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, Luke Fish. Cheers. I'm wanting my 1130 to be as quick as possible as acceleration. Would it be worthwhile for a 3.76? No. No. Okay. So what you're not understanding with that statement is you're building a very long stroke engine. The last thing you want to do is run it at high RPM. All right. A long stroke engine is best suited to plodding. All right. Keep it under 6,000 revs and just use the torque. All right. If you want to rev the damn thing to 7,000 revs, you're building the wrong engine. All right. So don't throw away all your hard earned money and put a low final drive in it, because you're just going to wear the thing out. All right. It's a long stroke engine. It's a plodder. So you need to gear it to use the torque. So if in my book, that would be a road car. Okay. So I'll be running a 3.1 diff in that. All right. Or maybe a 3.2. I wouldn't go any lower than that. I wouldn't go any lower ratio. So that's a numerically higher number. So a 3.4 is too low in my book. All right. Yeah. Day old 78. Yes, black carbon, it's solid. This is the guy that's doing the head gasket. All right. You're running too rich and or it's burning oil. All right. So what you need to, so if this is a running engine, you'll already know if it's using oil because you'd have been topping it up. If it's not using oil, it's running too rich. And if you keep it like it, it will use oil. So you need to get that engine tuned properly. All right. Once that head gasket's back on. Some bloke, MSD next. Yeah, MSD lightning bolts. Yeah.
4 ohm coil or something really low. Yeah.
So yeah, you're on the right track there, some bloke. Definitely. MSD, multiple spark disc chop, beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. Drive that spark into next week.
Specific RPM, like 3,000. But
funny that. And why is that? Because they want to light off a lean part throttle, low rev condition. Yeah, you don't need it after that. They've worked it out.
Right. Still about $1,000 worth of ignition parts, but there's a good reason for it.
Yeah. So yeah, what did the Americans ever do for us? MSD, amongst many other things.
Don't forget the roller cams.
Yes. Oh, and the roller cams. Yeah, absolutely. Luke Fish, cheers, AC. It currently has a 3-1 diff. Spot on. By the way, what's your opinion on a Weber 2836 carbs? Have you ever used
Find
a
a
Weber
dyno.
2836, Darren?
The worst mileage I've ever got was on a Mini with a Delorto of similar size.
Okay. So,
So no, it's impossible to tune. Like finding the people to get the tuning parts and then getting on, it's just impossible.
right.
Whereas you can do an SU in an afternoon.
Yeah. So this is the important thing, Luke, right? Only fit a carburetor that you can get tuned. There is no point fitting a carburetor that you can't tune or you can't get parts for. The 2836 is a very good carburetor. Okay. But only when it's got all the bits available and you know somebody who can set it up properly and do all the lean running, progression, accelerator pump, power valve, all the whole shooting match. If you can't get any of that done, give up, right? Only fit a carburetor that you can get tuned. Simple.
No, SUs, the twin, or what is that?
DU6, yeah, and DU4, yeah, yeah. Though I've offered to have a play. We'll see if they accept. Okay, so FMF Guff, is an LZX 285 dashboard damper likely to make a difference to my HI 44 and MG midget? Currently has the standard, right? Okay. Again, that's a question that I can't answer because I don't know what the problem you're having with your standard damper. All right. So when you say does it make a difference? Well, if your current damper is working fine, then probably not. All right. So I need to understand why you want to change the damper as to what your problem that you're having at the moment. Yeah. V-Man, are these wideband kits on eBay any good? Yeah. So if you want a wideband kit, buy a name brand Innovate AEM with a genuine Bosch sensor, right? LSU 4.9 sensor. Yeah, there are faster sensors out there, but that's perfectly good enough for what you need. And if you buy the Bosch sensor one, you can go out and buy a Bosch sensor when you need one anywhere. Okay, that's the beauty of having that setup. That's what I use, right? And it works, and I can get sensors and plug it in, and no problem at all. I can also go out as I did with a TR7, which is coming up in the next episode of On the Road Tuning. The guy didn't want to fit a gauge, so what he did is he bought a sensor and screwed it in the exhaust. And then when I came round, I just plugged in my kit into it, was able to tune the engine, took it, unplugged. He could then take the sensor out, job done, right? And then he can put that sensor in any other car. He didn't have to buy a gauge. He just bought the sensor and then paid for me to come around and tune it. You know, works great.
As a part that needs to be serviced. So every few thousand miles, you need to take it out and clean it. They don't stay perfectly clean in our carbureted cars. You got to make sure they get cleaned every now and then. Yeah, they're just something you got to take out and torch them. I clean mine every time I go out for tuning. But it's also at the back of the tip of the car's tailpipe, so it doesn't get so hot back there.
People of Sydney sat there the following morning with a blowtorch in the sensor because you have to clean it every day because it's not in the main heat stream, so it doesn't get cleaned. It's like a spark plug. It has to run at a certain temperature to stay clean. If you use them at the back of the exhaust pipe, they don't get hot enough, so you have to clean them.
A bit snappier, like twitchier almost. I don't know. I think it was running the same sensor, but the interface was different. So that might be a slightly faster responding unit. But again, I haven't had time to test a bunch of units. But yeah, we know it works, and we just stick to using those.
Question, please, AC. How to identify the cam? Are they stamped? I had a look while checking the valve clearances and couldn't see anything. Uh, ah, Yes, I know where Darren's is going to be smirking because I keep promising to do a video on how to measure your cam to identify. I just haven't got time. But yeah, so you, in order to identify the cam in your A plus engine, you need to see the marking on the cam. So camshafts have markings, with the exception of the 1275 A plus cam that's got no marking on it. But there is basically rings on the cam or grooves. Okay, so that tells you what it is. But clearly, that doesn't help if you can't get in there. All right, so you know, all I'm saying is, if you take the fuel pump off the back and you've got a bore scope that you can put down and have a look, that'll tell you what's going on. If you can look at it. If you can't go in there, and you might need to go to the other end to see the marks, it gets a little bit more complicated. All right. So all I'm saying is, the best way to identify a cam really on an engine, if you know what it is to measure the lift on split overlap and the total load lift. And if you can do that, and you can tell me those figures, I will tell you what the cam is. Okay. But I need to know those figures. And I'm not going to explain how to do it now because it needs a video to show you how to do it, because you need 2 dial gauges and lots of patience. All right. And it's not easy done on an engine because you've got an engine that's assembled, because you've got to disconnect 2 rockers and move them out, and it's just faff. But my point is, that's how you need to identify a camshaft. Okay. Right. FMF Guff, I think he's talking about the 2085. I gather they were fitted as standard to MG Metros, presumably for good reason. My car came from a Maestro 1.3. Okay. Yeah, they were, and that was known as the quick drop damper, and that just basically gives you the ability to not have a flat spot between gear changes. If you've got a flat spot between gear changes, fitting a 2085 is going to make that better. But you might also find that you may need to drop 1 grade of oil, because the fit is slightly tighter. So the lift rate will slow down slightly for the same oil. Typically, it all depends on the tolerances and the wear. Yeah. And again, therein we get back into the loop of tuning carburetors, which is no, start and do it properly. Start with the spring and move through. Yeah. Okay, some bloke just come back, 20 quid cheapo sensors last 6 months max. Yeah, and they might not even read right. So always stick with a name brand sensor. Your engine depends on it. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Um, Matt Steele's come out. Have you guys tried different gauge with the 4.9 sensor to compare? Personally, haven't. No, I'm only going by other people when I've turned up and they've got different gauges fitted. But generally speaking, that we all read within a small difference. So, and that's usually the difference where I'm reading it at the back, they're reading it at the front, and we've got maybe a little tiny leak in the exhaust system. So mine's reading a bit leaner than theirs is. Yeah.
Getting the pulses and separation between the pulses. I've seen that. Um, Now I know Ross has that really nice handheld unit that they sell for shops as well. That one, yeah, yeah, I might get that one next.
More stable than yours, so it's probably the most stable one I've seen. But then again, it's it's like £400 or something, or £450, and it's a lot of money. But the point is, it's because it's a professional bit of kit. That's why. Okay, so Luke Fisher's come back with thanks, guys. To be honest, after watching your tuning videos on the SU and profiling needles, dampers, etc., it runs sweet now. I just fancied something different, hence 1130 rather than 1270, 9 and 8 or 1275. Yeah, fine. People always have to remember, though, you don't get something for nothing. So, if you're talking a road engine, you're talking 65 to 70 foot-pounds a litre. All right. So if you want more acceleration, you need more litres. That's all it comes down to. Guitar Rich, thanks again, guys. See you soon. Yep, no problem at all. Rich Holder, thanks so much. OC got a bore scope. We'll take a look. Ever heard a ticking fuel pump? Got a ticking sound. Cannot eradicate. Waiting for timing light to check timing. Too much advance and pinking. Yeah, okay. So fuel pumps don't normally tick that loud. Ticking normally associated with is valve train noise. That's not normally what you get.
You never know what you're going to find.
On the slave cylinder, thanks. Only if you haven't got enough length, and that's usually because the arm's worn out. So if you put a new arm in, there shouldn't be any need for an adjustable clutch plunger. So what I think you're inventing something that is because something else isn't correct. So you shouldn't need an adjustable plunger. So some blokes just said I have an Innovate, but if I have my time again, it'll be an AEM. Okay, fine. Day old 78 engine has previously been tuned by yourself at the Isle of Wight last year. Spark plugs are white. Grey sooting at tailpipe. Head gasket decided to start leaking oil. Okay, so is this the one with the carbon build-up? You're probably burning some oil. Yeah. So if the plugs are clean and there's a carbon build-up in the engine, it might just be burning some oil. And if you've got some a little bit of carbon black appearing on the plugs, it's probably because it's burning a bit of oil. Again, doesn't sound like the end of the world, right? And if it's already running lean, it's not going to get worse, which is excellent. To clean them up, yeah. And then it gets cleaned up in another cylinder, yeah.
The answer is you got to figure out where the oil's coming from. If it's getting sucked through the intake valves or is it coming through the rings? But since the head's off, you can see the condition of the pistons. But normally you have to look down with the bore scope and see the staining or the clean spots. I've got clean spots where the oil is rushing past the rings onto the piston, and then the rest of it's got carbon because it's burning it. So you can definitely tell what's happening.
Check valve. Should I change it to a solid state? Unfortunately, I do have manifold ported vacuum. I assume he's talking there. Do you want to answer that one, Darren?
They just wear out. I would replace it with a solid disc just to avoid that problem in the future. Because once the spring wears out, then you have an extra air leak that you weren't expecting, and the mixture just goes off.
Bigger engine, it will likely need that airflow on overrun to keep it lean. Okay, so having that airflow on overrun is actually beneficial. So if it's a 1700 or 2 litre engine with that carb on, then you might find you actually need that. But equally, what you'll need to do is to make sure you've got a new one with a strong spring, because they do relax, and the rate drops, and they start opening up when you're idling and things like that, which plays havoc with the idle settings or the return to idle. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Some bloke Innovate has been troublesome, but look better to me than the AEM. Okay, fine. Classic Mini Workshop, evening chaps, straight in with a thumbs up. Thank you, straight in with a like. Thanks for that. I think we've we've run out of questions. Oh no, we've got one more there. Okay. Some bloke, I'll keep cooking timing lights. Had 5 to 6, lost count. AC, you must hammer yours in use all day. Is there a trick or is it me? Yeah. I bet you are using the timing light with the leads on the end, and you clip it onto different cars, and and you pull the leads and yank things and all this sort of stuff, right? The only problems I have with timing lights are using it on cars with the leads that it comes with. So the best conversion I did was to stop using the car's power supply, because it's noisy generally, especially if you've got a dynamo and things like that. So I started using my EcoFlow unit to power it. And then more recently, I've now changed it to, I use a Milwaukee battery. All right. So I just slide that on the bottom, and that provides the power for the timing light. And then I only have one connection, which goes on the HT lead. Now, that's a much smoother power supply, no noise, so the electrical circuitry runs better. And then, I see loads of people using strobe lights, and the engine's running, and the flipping strobe is flashing away for 20 minutes, right? Stop doing that. You'll wear your strobe lights out, right? When you've finished doing the strobe, turn the bulb off, right? I have my strobe light on most of the day, but it's never flashing. It's only flashing when I'm doing the timing, and then I turn it off, right? You will see me doing that in videos where it's flashing and I turn the thing off. And that's because I've learned that excess flashing, wears them out. All right. You need a decent timing light. So I have two snap-on ones. Okay. Now, the second snap-on one is my reserve light, which stays here. And my spare light that I take with me, so I take two because I have to. I can't tune a car if I haven't got a strobe light. I take the Innova 5568A with me. But that one I haven't converted. And the reason why I haven't converted that one is because that's got a dwell feature on it, and it needs to be hooked into the car's electrical system to work. So if you've got a snap-on timing light or any decent timing light, I would urge you to convert it to use a different power source. And then you will find that your life with the strobe light will improve, and the reliability and everything else. The other thing is cables, on my snap-on light, it's failed twice now, where the cable at the strain relief is broken. Okay. So, and that's because I use it all the time. As you probably worked out, I use my strobe lights a lot. Okay. But it's a light. That's the only tool in my toolbox that needs near constant maintenance. Okay. Other than the lambda sensor, right? That gets more because it has to be cleaned. But in terms of any of my tools, the strobe light is one that gets a lot of abuse. So you have to be careful with the cables. So remove the bloody cables and just have the pickup to go to the HT, and your life will become a lot simpler with strobe lights.
Voltage, noise, etc. Will affect them. Also, if you're using them on cars that still have solid core wires, it'll short them out. They don't not like solid core wires at all. So yeah, too much noise. And even the Innovate will be a bit noisy if you have a cheap set of leads and you're testing spark plug number one, because all the cabling's right there. So sometimes gun receiving. If it's got a good clean signal, you're going to get a good clean flash. If it doesn't, you get mixed results.
That reminds me as well. When I looked inside my strobe, my snap-on strobe light, the circuitry inside is contained within a Faraday cage, okay, to stop electrical noise. So I would suggest that if you've got a timing light and you open it up and it hasn't got that on the outside, use some foil tape on the inside, make sure it doesn't touch any of the circuitry, and then earth it to the earth that's on the shielding that's on the cable, yeah, that goes to the HT. So it's all shielded, all right. And then you will find that your strobe light will improve immensely in its reliability and its flash reliability as well. Yeah, I haven't looked into our treatment, but I will do, because I have a cheap one here. So I'll pull that apart, and if it hasn't got any shielding in it, then I might just smile and put some in it and make it much better. Anyway, Matt Steele's come back. One for you, Darren. There. Question for Darren: have you always been working on engines, and how did you get into it? Okay. Yeah, he's dropped out. Is that better? No. Okay. All right. I'll carry on. We'll get back to that one in a minute, Matt. I think he's coming back on now. There we go. That better?
Yeah, I don't know why I
Okay.
cut out then.
Yeah. All right. Carry on.
Yeah, so I was saying, yeah, I bought a Mini in 2000, and then I've been working on that. Well, since they never really are finished, but then because I was interested in minis, I had to work with the club, help the club. So I started out with minis, and then I worked on them professionally for a long time, and now I just do my own stuff. So it's been a long, long haul. So 25 years roughly working with them. No, not all engines. You know, the engine stuff came later. Once you figure out how to, work on your ignition, and eventually you have to do an engine rebuild at some point. So um, when you're working in a professional English shop, you do more engine work than you typically would for yourself. But yeah, it's just been a mixed bag of having to do everything, um, learn how to do everything, and then of course learn how to do everything better the second time, the third time, and now it's like I don't want to do it at all because I know how much work it is. But you're always learning something. Every single time we have a conversation, I always learn something. And it's like, this whole discussion with the needle valves. Like, I would never have looked at this until I had a problem, because I always assumed everything was right out of the box, and now I know better. Yeah,
What is assumption?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
But I also have a degree in mechanical engineering, so that helps a lot.
Yeah.
Especially when you're scratching your head trying to understand why the English designed something a certain way, and then you realize it was cost reasons.
Yeah. We designed it to be cheap. That's basically
Yeah.
what we did. Yeah.
Why do we
So
earth against this rusty panel? Oh wait, because we have no other place to put it.
you're more qualified than I do, because I don't have a degree in mechanical engineering. I just have a degree in the School of Hard Knocks in mechanical engineering.
Probably more valuable.
Oh dear. Anyway, so hopefully that answers your question, Matthew. So Billy Joe Denny could possibly have just solved an idle problem we've had. Thank you, guys. Definitely, we'll get a new kit for the for the carb. Okay, no problem. FMF Guff, did you find out what caused the failure of your EcoBoost or similar engine you had replaced recently? Yes, effectively, my cam, when one of the camshafts went out of time and made a valve hit a piston. That was it. Yeah, so there was no wet belt failure. There was no, too much power from the turbo or any of that old guff. It was purely mechanical timing issue. But in terms of how it went out, I'm only assuming it was one of the auto advancers, because I don't know any other, because I didn't, the engine had to go back, so I didn't get to take it apart. Some blokes come back about the strobe. We'll do external power. It is absolutely. And don't forget though, external power, make sure the voltages are matched. So if you're running a timing light, 13.8 volts is kind of nice for your timing light. So if you're using, like I did with a battery like the that uses 5 cells, that's anywhere from from about 15 volts to 21 volts. So you need to use a DC to DC converter to step that down. And I used a 5 amp one in my timing light, which seems to work perfectly. So
You can always start out by using an external 12-volt battery on the ground next to the vehicle.
Yeah, and to be fair, I did that for many years when I did a lot of work over at ML Motorsport, and I was used a slave battery with the snap-on timing light, and it worked perfectly. Okay, so Luke Fish, one last question, gents, if I may. How many miles would you put on a new build before considered to be running? Okay, I'll answer my question. I'll just run my eco boosting, and I put the oil, the running in oil. You must use running in oil, and it said change it out after 400 miles. So I did 375 miles. The first 150, 175, I drove it pretty much like I stole it. So it only did 26 miles to the gallon during that running in period, and that's because I was leaning into it and getting the blower going and getting lots of boost pressure on. But I kept it under 4,000 revs. So because it's an auto transmission, I had to let it get into the highest gear I could and then feed the power in to build the boost. So from about 2,500 to 4,000 revs, I was getting maximum cylinder pressure, and that's to push the rings in. All right. So I did that for sort of 150 to 175 miles, and then I started to, lay out of the throttle a bit. So for the first 150 miles, I'll give it a pasting, but not high revs. Okay. And I didn't drive anywhere on the motorway. I just drove it around town to work, just around and about. But I live in a rural area, so I've got a lot of 60-mile-an-hour roads, so I can go and accelerate hard up the lanes, etc., and get up to speed with load on. So I did it in low revs, high gear to put a sustained load on. That's how you want to do it, right? But clearly, my EcoBoost is turbocharged, so my rings were assisted by 24 pounds of boost. And yes, that was on a new engine with 24 pounds of boost. So all I'm saying is, with your A series, is get the torque going. So I would say keep it under 3,500 revs, but get the throttle open and get some load on it. But you must have running oil, and you must have your fueling under control. If you're running around at 0.8 on the lambda, you're going to kill it. All right. So you need to get that fueling under control, and you need a reasonable amount of fueling so that when you put a load on it, you're not going to do anything silly to it. Okay.
Whenever I have an injection car that comes in for tuning work, I always use my tuning kit to measure its fueling at idle or whatever I'm doing, just to confirm that it is running as it's supposed to, because I can't guarantee. I have no way of checking other than using my external kit. So even on an injection car, it may run just fine, but I have to verify that it is running fine. I can't just assume it's going to run fine as soon as you start it up. You always need some sort of external, confirmation that it is running correctly.
Yeah.
And Ross does the same thing. He takes it down to a dyno.
Yeah,
runs it on a dyno.
He does. So he builds his engines, and then they're all sent to a dyno for braking, and they all spend 30 minutes on the dyno being exercised hard. Yeah, not high revs, but 3/4 throttle, get some load on it, and run 30-second run, offload, 30-second run, on load, let cool down, that kind of thing. They are loaded. Okay, if you watch a braking on a dyno, most people don't want to stay in the cell, right? It's hard, yeah. But the point is, it's effective and breaks an engine in really quick, and makes a nice job. The engine seals up, and you get good power, which is what it's all about. Okay. Try PAL. Do you have a video on how to convert a strobe light? No, purely because when I did it, I didn't know how good it was going to be. As it turned out to be freaking epic, which is fantastic. Funny enough, I do have another strobe light here, so I might do that video, but not yet. Some blokes just come back, make Faraday cage. Thank you. Yeah, fair enough. Absolutely. Luke Fish, I've been running up and down the gears, uphill, putting on load, 300 miles in, and no signs of ball wash, no smoke from the exhaust, lack of power, etc. Excellent.
Good start.
Have you had running in oil? That's the key.
Yeah, the injection car I have to break in. That's exactly what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
As soon as I'm done with the cam break in, the first place I'm leaving is to drive to the canyon that's near my house and drive straight into the mountains. So a constant uphill load with windy, twisty, curves that are medium speed, low speed.
Lots of second and third gear. Yeah. load, get the throttle open, long loads. That's good. Yeah.
And I'm taking my spare engine as a mass to
Yeah.
put in the passenger seat.
Yeah, and that's true because Darren phoned me up and said, "How can I, make this engine work?" I said, "Chuck some extra weight in it." He said, "I'll put the spare engine in the boot." I went, "Yeah." I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but if you want load, that's exactly how you do it. Put more weight in the car.
Yeah.
Some bloke, I run a Orfco. Don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. Some bloke. Yeah.
He's got that methanol.
Yeah. So he's talking about he runs an Orfco HI44 when running petrol. They get a bad rap. Is this justified? I don't know what that is. Bradley Clark said, "Hi Bradley." Luke Fish, excellent. Thanks, guys. I've never been so passionate about working and modifying minis as I am now. And now a huge thanks to you. The videos are really informative. Thanks for keeping the dream alive. No problem at all. This is what we're here for. This is why we do the live streams and the videos, to educate people. We've still got 40 people on, so we've been consistent all the way across, Darren. That's fantastic. And we've just passed the 2-hour mark.
Nice.
So I don't know if you want to carry on for just a little bit longer because there's still people here.
Sure.
Orfco is a Maestro carb. Okay. Right. It doesn't matter what carb you have as long as it's calibrated properly. Right. That might have electronic bits on it. If you're using electronic bits, great. But the carb itself, as long as it works, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you can make anything run on these cars. It's just a matter of getting them adjusted right.
Yeah. Yeah. So thanks for educating me, some bloke. So every day's a school day. Now I know what you're talking about. I think I have one of those under the bench here somewhere.
I think those are the ones I keep getting tempted to buy, and then I go, "Nah, it's too many fittings." Yeah.
Under my bench. There we go. Solenoid. Yeah. That's there, not for review. That's just for spares. I'll just nick bits off it.
Yeah. I will do a bit of a show and tell. So I was we have a diecast store at our nearby, and I found this lovely Falcon, mini diecast. I've never seen one with a figurine to come with it.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like I had to buy it. It's not a Hot Wheels brand. It's some other brand, but I was like, yeah, that's worth adding to the collection. So
some blokes just come back and said, yeah, he's confirmed the carb I just held up was an Orfco one. Okay. What does Orfco stand for? I'm going to look stupid now when he says this, and I'll just know that. I've just never heard the term. So some bloke, if you can let me know what Orfco stands for, that'd be great. Thank you. Day old 78. Thanks, guys. Helpful as always. Absolutely. Thank you for that. We try to do our best. FMF Guff. Indeed, I've run a Maestro 1.3 HIF for years, and it's been the best carb I've ever run. Yeah, I mean, they all work similar. They've got the controls on the side. As long as the carb works and meters fuel, that's all it's there for.
Yeah, the HIF series was a good step up from the HS.
Yeah,
it controlled the fuel swirling.
Yeah. He's just come back. There's a switch for the overrun to cut the fuel off. So they're trying to get it like a modern car. So when you close the throttle on overrun, it just literally stops the fuel coming through, and that makes perfect sense. So that's kind of, one step before fuel injection. That's what that was all about.
Yeah, especially on larger engines where they have really strong, suction on those jet surfaces.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. If anyone's still online that hasn't given us a thumbs up, a like, that would be great. If you can hit that like, that would be fantastic. Okay, very interesting video. Billy Joe Denny, a very interesting video. I'd love to learn. Hang in there, guys, as long as you can. We appreciate the educational videos. Excellent. Thank you for that. It's really appreciate the feedback. And some blokes just come back and you got it, AC. Yeah, the one step before fuel injection with the cut off and overrun. Yeah. Thank you. And you're educating me because I don't get to play with these things. I just mess around with the older stuff. So, and I appreciate there are a lot of people out there that can't get stuff, so they have to use whatever's available. And a Maestro card might be the only thing that they've got, and therefore they have to use it.
Mm-hmm.
Like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Don't forget, it's not just me, it's Darren as well. So if you can check his channel out and give him a subscribe, that's excellent, because Darren does a lot of stuff over there, but for some reason he doesn't get many viewers. So we're trying to get some more viewers for Darren, because his channel basically kind of supports my channel in his way, because I don't have chance to make all the videos, whereas Darren tends to fill in the gaps and he does a really good job. So you know, you need to watch his channel as well as mine to really get the full picture of what's going on.
Yeah, it's nice because I can usually focus on small subjects as well, fill in the blanks.
Darren Robert Shaw tried to give another like, it won't let me. Well, if you've given one, that's fantastic, Darren, so I appreciate that. Luke Fisher's come back. Sorry, I forgot. Another question. The 295 I have will need an 80 thou skim to get the CR up. With this in mind, I presume I need to shim the rockers. Okay. Let's not assume that we need an 80 thou skim, right? If you've got a head that's not been machined, what you want to do is you want to actually work out the chamber volume that you need. Then you need to burette the cylinder head to work out exactly how much needs to come off. Don't just assume it's an 80 thou skim. Worst mistake you can make, right? You only, measure twice, cut once. So you don't go skimming a cylinder head until you know exactly how much to come off. All right. So don't just look at a forum and go, oh, it's 80 thou. No, work it out with the pistons that you've got and everything else, and then skim it accordingly. It may well be 80 thou. It might be 90 or it might be 60. So just please check that out.
Yeah, and a kit to do that's very inexpensive.
Yeah. The other thing is, I need to shim up the rockers. You should be shimming your rockers anyway if you want to get maximum valve lift. So you need to go through that whole process of optimizing your rocker geometry. All right, everybody should be doing that. So not just people of, if you just do a bloody head gasket change, think about if there's an option to get more performance by shimming your rockers. Definitely. Some bloke, yeah, I have a switch on accelerator pedal. Nice. There's an Orthco video on. I'll look that up. Thank you, some bloke. That's great. Thank you. AC, please may you bring a piston cushion with you when you're down. No problem, Matt, but please let me know the night before. All right, because when I pack my stuff, that's not normally part of the stuff I bring. So yes, I have piston cushions, but please let me know before, because I will forget. I'm terrible like that.
Yeah, that reminds me, I need to order about 30 of those.
Yeah.
Just get a stock of them.
Yeah. David Yendall, I arrived late, but we'll watch from the beginning later. Always learning from you, AC. Thanks to you both. No problem, David. And the very fact you've joined is fantastic, because we've been going over 2 hours now, and we've still got 39 people online. So clearly we're doing something right, because they like what we've got to say, which is fantastic. So I think if we give it another 3 or 4 minutes, and we'll call it a night. Well, I'll call it a night because it's late here, but it's just lunchtime for you, Darren.
Yeah, just a bit past. Now I got plenty to do still.
Yeah. Okay, so no problem, thanks. Yeah. May I ask what a piston cushion is? Keep them busy, Darren. I just need to go over to my piston cushion selection, which just so happens to be next to me because I'm in the middle of doing carbs. And oh, look at that. I'll put my hand on it straight away. So, piston cushions.
Yeah, they essentially prevent the piston from hitting the bridge and are spaced out a certain distance from the bridge, especially at idle.
So they're piston cushions, and I will show you where they go. If I've got one handy. Oh, look at this!
So
this is very handy, isn't it? I can show stuff. So
it's right there,
the bottom of a SU piston. See where my finger is there? That's the piston cushion. Okay, and that should protrude 8 to about 8 to 12 thousandths of an inch above the face. Okay, and if it doesn't, it needs changing. And they come like that, and they're about 80 pence each or something. But it's once you fit them, they're too long, so you have to machine them back. Okay, so I use my lathe to do that because it gives me an exact length every time, and it's quick to do.
Yeah, it's really important. If that cushion's gone, then the piston just smacks the bridge and disrupts the airflow at idle, and it's just not good.
Okay.
And,
Right.
and if you watch my video that I had recently about the carbs that were bad, 2 of the 3 carburetors that were brand new had bad piston pin cushions.
Yep.
They just pushed them in all the way, and there was no gap.
Yep. Yep. Okay. So hopefully that helps you, FMF. Simon Menzies, I recently bought a silicon H2 leads, correct spark plugs, 0.7 coil, but when asked for a power spark electronic module to go with them, you didn't ask for a PM5. That's what you need to ask for. PM5 module, but that is only a module that goes in the dedicated distributors. You won't find a module as a kit that you fit into a normal Dizzy. You won't get one. You have to buy the proper Dizzy with it already in. Okay, so if you just want a conversion kit for your Dizzy, they're right. They won't supply one because they don't make it.
Yeah, it works with the reluctor ring design, not a magnetic pickup.
Yeah, basically. Do I have a part number? No, there isn't a part number there. You just phone them up and say I want some piston cushions. But I'll bring some down. I've got to buy a few more anyway, so I'll buy some this week and make sure. Do you want one or do you want slack handful? Just let me know, Matt, offline.
I wish they were part of the service kits.
Okay, so Simon Menzies. All right, so I'm just going to go off camera and go find a Dizzy. All right, because it needs to understand that it's not a kit that you buy. All right. Excuse me.
Yeah, the reason the PM5 module works is because of the design of the reluctor ring that triggers it. It's really nice to have. Because the reluctor ring is pinned to the distributor shaft, it ensures that you have accurate timing off the shaft. Yes, you can have wear at the drive dogs, but as far as timing internal of the distributor, it's probably the most accurate you're going to get. It's essentially a duplicate of a factory design off of like the MG products. In the 80s, they had a reluctor ring setup. Very simple.
Right, so what I've got here is a brand new power spark. Okay. Which comes with a PM5. Okay, that's the module. But you can't buy that module and fit it in a normal distributor because it has to have the proper reluctor, metal reluctor on the shaft. So this distributor is a special distributor. You can't just fit this lot in a normal distributor. So when you buy this module, you don't buy the module, you buy the whole unit. Okay, you can't buy it as a kit. You can buy replacement modules, right, if they go wrong, but you can't fit that in a normal Dizzy. You have to have that Dizzy. So if you've got this type, okay, with that's a power spark, right, but that's the kit that fits in. That will only run, the lowest ohm coil is a 1.5, okay? Yep. That is probably what you're describing, all right? You can't fit that into this Dizzy. You have to buy the whole lot. All right. Hopefully that makes that simple for you, Simon. All right. So they were quite correct. If you asked for a kit, they wouldn't supply it because they don't make it. Okay. Me too. Yeah. Yeah. Some blokes come back and telling me about Orfco, what it was fitted to. Yeah, it was fitted to the later cars and the more expensive vehicles. I understand.
It's funny what you get when you pay more money.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Simon Menzies. Yeah, that second is the exact module I have. Right. and therefore they don't do a high power version of that. The one you've got is as high power as it gets. If you want a high power one, you have to buy that Dizzy. All right. And the problem is if you buy that Dizzy, the advance curve in that Dizzy may not be optimum for your application. All right. So you have to buy a curved one, and that's where you buy it off of me for £185, and I curve the Dizzy, and away you go. Please don't ask me to do it now because I'm closed. All right. So my business at the moment is so rammed with work that I can't take any more. The only people that are getting Dizzies at the moment are my on the road tuning customers or any of my traders on my tuning network that I've trained. If they want Dizzies, I do them all. Thomas the Classic Modern want Dizzies, they all get them done. So and Downton Motor Engineering also in receipt of my Dizzies as well. So unfortunately, I've reached the limit of my capacity.
And I've been doing my own since I'm over here in the States.
Yeah. So what we did is Darren, because he's in the States, he decided to do the distributor training as well from me. So Darren does distributors. So I have actually been actively using Darren to supply Dizzies to people around the world that I just haven't got time to do. So Darren's been doing a lot of that. So I thank him for that.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see where they go. We really could use a third point of contact over in Australia.
Yeah.
Because the problem is sometimes the international shipping makes it so impossible to do a recurve distributor that we just don't do it.
Yep. Oh, Dean Cook's online. All right, Dean. See, SU nylon piston cushion part number. There you go. Thank you very much for that number. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I need to order a bunch.
That means I need to run down there before you lot get your orders in. So don't run out.
Well, if they didn't jam them in the carbs, it wouldn't be a problem.
Well, working out how to get them out, it's actually really easy once you know, but they can be troublesome to get out if you do it the wrong way.
So don't melt them out.
Yeah. Okay, so Simon says, yeah, brilliant, thanks, very interesting. Yeah, so obviously we've answered this question, but now you know. Right, I think we've reached the end. Darren?
Okay, sounds good. Still got 40 people, that's great.
Yeah, I mean,
Thanks
it's fantastic. I appreciate everybody coming on tonight. That's really good. Clearly, we've been captivating enough to keep everybody online. So what we're going to do now is we're going to say bye. And we'll see you probably in another month's time. I'm not sure if it's going to be Darren or anybody else, but please watch my Facebook page for more information when the next one's going to be on. But we'll do exactly the same next time. Yeah, everybody down there is saying thanks, legends, etc. Cheers. Thank you all for being online. Thank you, Rachel, as well for being the female watcher, so I appreciate that. Thank you. What else have we got there? Yeah, Darren Robert Shaw. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, wonderful. All right. There's a lot of people that haven't asked questions that are regular viewers, so I appreciate that. So without further ado, I'm going to say good night. So if we all wave, and I'll hit the button. Thank you very much, everybody. See you next month.
See you guys later.